If you think it's a typical dragon story, you'd be wrong. It bears all the hallmarks: a great loathsome worm hiding in a cave, its foul breath scorching and poisoning the land for miles around. There's a despairing king whose realm is under threat, and whose children have gone missing. But the tale of the Laidly Wyrm is not what it seems on the surface, and as loathsome as this dragon might be, it isn't the true monster of this tale at all. Hi everybody and welcome back to Beasts of the Old World. I'm Nick and today we're looking at a very unique dragon tale, a medieval story that may well have origins that stretch back over 4,000 years. But before we unearth its secrets, let's tell the tale in full. Please like the video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already, and sit back, grab a cup of tea, and let's dive into the story of the Loathsome Worm. Once upon a time, there was an ancient kingdom in the north. It was a land of hard cliffs and lonely crags, of deep green woods and thick morning mists. Its king was a strong man, yet since the death of his wife he'd known nothing but trouble. His son had gone abroad to learn the art of war and statecraft and of courtly service, but of late, all word from him had stopped entirely. Then, only days after the king returned home with his beautiful new bride, something terrible happened. His only daughter, who'd watched over the realm with such care and intelligence in his absence, went missing, vanishing without a trace. With the king lost in grief, rule passed quietly to the new queen. She was a beautiful but hard lady who seemed to chill the air about her, and from the moment that she arrived at Bamborough Castle, the servants kept out of her way, and the courtiers whispered that there was something ancient in her eyes, that perhaps she knew the old ways, or that she was some sort of sorceress. Before long, word reached the crown of a monster stalking the coast. A loathsome worm so foul that it poisoned everything for miles in every direction. Its breath scorched the earth. Its very presence blackened the grass. By day, it hid in a cave not far from the shore, and by night, it slid down to the sea to drink. The people were calling it the Laidly or Loathsome Worm. The queen asked how such a vast beast had appeared in the kingdom, apparently overnight and without warning, but nobody could say. All they knew was that each week they paid it a tribute of milk and prayed that it would let them be. The queen demanded that her knights destroy it. They weren't used to taking orders from anyone but the king, but when the queen's voice, cold as iron, rang through the castle walls, they obeyed. Many battles followed and many lives were lost, but no matter what they did, nobody could defeat the Loathsome Worm. As the land continued to wither, the queen grew restless. She locked herself in council with witch wives who slipped through the castle at strange hours, and she was often seen studying the calendar, frequently calling upon the wise men to confirm the true date. She would not say why. Meanwhile, across the sea, the prince heard of his father's malaise, of his sister's disappearance, and of the loathsome worm laying waste to his homeland. He summoned his men, and they built a ship with rowan masts and silk sails, and set out for home without delay. When word of his approach reached the queen, she grew pale. She gathered her witch wives and sent them to wreck the prince's ship with their charms, and indeed they brought terrible storms down upon the coast, but the ship survived untroubled. The old crones returned to the queen, grumbling that there must be rowan wood about the ship, for their charms had proved powerless. And so the queen sent her own ships next, but the prince's vessel was so swift that it broke their lines easily and landed on the shore below Spindlestone Heughs, camp near the worm's lair. The queen's soldiers fled, for they feared the worm above all else. As the prince approached the rocky headland, the worm emerged from its cave. It coiled around the stones, its hiss echoed across the cliffs. The sailors cried out for him to fall back, but the prince stepped forward. He was certain that the worm was responsible for his sister's disappearance and wasn't about to back down from it. The worm towered above him. He looked deep into its eyes, but instead of a monster, he saw something else entirely. Something he did not expect. And then the worm spoke. "Quit thy sword and bend thy bow, and give me kisses 3. Though I am a poisonous worm, no hurt will I do to thee. O quit thy sword and bend thy bow, and give me kisses 3. If I am not won by the set of the sun, won I shall never be." Now, a talking worm was terror enough. A pleading worm was stranger still. And yet the prince felt no evil in it. If anything, he felt sorrow, and something that he almost recognized. He lowered his sword, stepped closer, and kissed the creature. Once, twice, and then a third time. The worm withdrew into the cave, and silence fell, and for half a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then, after only a moment, a young woman emerged. Her clothes were torn and tattered, and her face was pale and worn from long exile, but she was unmistakable. It was his sister, the missing princess. The curse had broken. The truth stood revealed. The monster the people had feared had been the princess all along, trapped in loathly shape by some wicked curse. Wrapped in her brother's cloak, the princess told her tale. She spoke of the day that the king returned with his new bride. She told how she'd welcomed the queen home with kindness, and how one of the chieftains had praised her loudly in the queen's hearing, saying, "Truly the Princess Margaret is excelling of all womankind in beauty and in worth," and of how the jealous queen had muttered, "You might have accepted me." A couple of nights later, the queen had laid a curse upon her, and she had turned into the Laidly Wyrm and was left to wander the coast until her brother returned from beyond the sea. The breaking of the spell stripped the queen of her power. Her witchcraft crumbled, and her evil deeds were laid bare. Hearing his sister's tale, the prince pronounced judgment upon the queen, whereupon she shrank into a toad and crawled into the shadows. For the rest of her days, she crept about the castle walls and spat weakly at the maidens that she envied, which was more or less all of them. And so the kingdom was restored. The land blossomed again. Grass grew where the worm had once roamed, and the people of the realm learned the truth, that the monster they had feared was never a monster at all, and that it was not the Laidly Wyrm who'd brought ruin upon the realm, but the evil and jealous queen. Now, while listening to that tale, you may have noticed a few familiar concepts and ideas, because many of these appear in stories that almost everybody knows. A wicked stepmother, a transformative curse, a returning hero, and of course, a dragon. Each one a staple of the fairy tales we grew up hearing as children. Now, although it's a very old tale indeed, these concepts didn't begin with the Laidly Wyrm, or indeed with fairy tales themselves. Instead, they reach deep into the past of human storytelling. The wicked stepmother seeking to destroy the younger woman she cannot bear to see is a motif that has existed in folklore and mythology around the world for millennia. We see it in Snow White from 1812. We see it in Cinderella from 1634, and we see it far earlier still, in the Old Testament, where Sarah, wife of Abraham, casts his other children out so as not to dilute the inheritance pool for her own son. That puts the motif back to at least 1400 BC, making it nearly 3,500 years old. The idea of the curse that transforms or hides true nature is perhaps even more widespread and is still very popular today. We see this in Beauty and the Beast, we see it again in Edward Scissorhands, in the way that Bilbo and Frodo see Gollum, and of course in the story of Shrek. The Hunchback of Notre Dame and the life of Joseph Merrick the Elephant Man show the same emotional truth in a different way. The world sees a monster, one person looks closer and sees the humanity beneath the shape. These transformation stories also trace back into deep antiquity. In Greek tradition, Io becomes a cow under Hera's jealousy. Callisto is turned into a bear for almost the same reason. While in Irish mythology, we have the stories of the children of Lear and the tale of Aideen too. In fact, this motif appears so frequently in so widely separated Indo-European cultures that it may suggest a very ancient shared origin. If it does reach back to Proto-Indo-European myth itself, then the motif could be 4,000 years old, and possibly older. And if you thought that was old, the image of the dragon itself is older still. Archaeologists have found serpent and dragon-like carvings from Neolithic China that are more than 7,000 years old. The Hongshan culture made C-shaped pig dragons out of jade and limestone. The Liangzhu carved serpent-like shapes too. The horned serpent appears long before myths about such creatures were written down, long before the Bible, long before the first cities were sparked into existence, and thousands of years before even the pyramids were built. The Laidly Wyrm sits exactly at the crossroads of these ancient threads. It's a story shaped by some of the earliest ideas that human beings ever carried with them. It truly is a tale as old as time. It shows how evil can twist what is good and how lies can turn an innocent person into a monster. But of course, the worm isn't really the monster at all. The monster is the queen. The curse is the lie that she creates. A kingdom falls to ruin, not because a dragon appears upon the coast, but because of a single act of hatred from a jealous queen, poisons the way that everybody sees the world. That's often the shape of evil in folklore, and it's often the shape of evil today, working through distortion and leveraging fear for personal gain. Yet the tale also shows the power of its opposite. The worm is undone not by the blade, but by an act of love that refuses to accept the lie. The prince stands before the creature that others are afraid of, has the courage to overcome his fear and act with compassion instead. In that moment, truth becomes stronger than deception. Compassion becomes stronger than hate. The curse breaks because someone refuses to accept the lies that those around them insist must be true. This is why the story still carries such weight. Contained within it is the old belief that good isn't simply the absence of evil, it's the courage to speak the truth in the face of a mountain of lies. It warns of the tragedy lurking at the end of managed realities and echoes our innate human longing to be seen clearly and to not be misunderstood, especially in environments where others have the power to paint distorted images of our character. Crucially, it shows us that it's possible to challenge evil and hatred and lies with a gentler power. The tale of the Laidly Wyrm reveals something that is as true now as it has always been. Lies can ruin lives, can break families, and can even be used to darken and seize control of entire kingdoms. But it also tells us that with clear eyes and strong hearts, we can see through the lies and reveal the truth. It reminds us that love is the oldest magic that we possess, that it has always had the power to unmake the false shapes that hatred builds, and it always will. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this episode, then please give us a like and check out our other episodes in this Dragons of the North miniseries. And if you want to show your support for the Old World, then join my fantastic community over on Patreon, where you'll get exclusive old tales and deep dives every month. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.